Hi there everyone, I'm Jaakko. I wanted to make this video and talk about the workflow of taking this marvelous designer garment to ZBrush and how to process these geometry so that it's more like a game ready asset, such as this what I have in here. So let's get started. So what we have here is the 3D pattern window. So if you're new to Marvelous Designer, I'm just gonna go through a basic stuff that I've learned. So you can see that we have the pattern in here laid out like very much like a real fabric patterns. If you look at like Pinterest, you can find a lot of these, and some of them are, by the way, not very good. That much I've learned is that you can easily find bad patterns that you shouldn't touch. So don't just go and import the picture and trace stuff in here, because that won't fit your avatar, and always the pattern is designed to fit some specific type of person or usually some real person. So like, don't trace this. You can get inspiration from Pinterest, but make your own patterns and understand how these work. So just to go through a very basic little things, for example, you can see these diamond type of holes in here, and what these are called is these are darts. And what these do is that these remove the fabric from the model's back area here, because we can see that the woman's lovely shape is like this. It goes like that, and we need less fabric in the back. So what this does is that it dynamically removes the fabric from here, making the textile, making the garment fit much more better. If it was just without this, then it would be like making folds. It would be just hanging here, and it wouldn't look as streamlined. Nice. And here also we can see we have another V type of a shape in here. Like what this is also is dart. It's removing fabric from these shoulder areas in here, because this is another area that always tends to be problematic, because otherwise we get like these ugly folds in here. Okay, so yeah, very much the basics. Majority of the work in Marvelous Designer is matching, making sure that the seams match. So we can see like the lengths in here. If we click the seam, these edges, we can see that we have 90.2, and then we can see that here we have another 90.2, so these match. So one of the tricks that I learned is that if you just select one edge, select another edge, and right click, whoops, so select those, right click, go to match up to start. Now it automatically moves the corresponding garment piece, and it matches it with this. So now we can see that it actually match, and this also helps us to shape these holes. So we have like, for example, this kind of a hole in here. So we have these two edges going here. What we can see from this, we can start to kind of understand that how the pattern actually translates to 3D shapes, like so. It's just like we break up the pattern a little bit. So I'm gonna maybe just do a quick seam in here. Alright, so looks like we fixed the problem. So basically like so. Now this is like the very basic stuff. The other window that's very important is this UV editor. So when we start to kind of take this pattern to like ZBrush and later to Maya or Substance Painter, what we need is a way to make sure that these panels or these areas, these different like pattern pieces, that these we are able to separate them. We are able to, if we just weld everything together and forget about it, then we will have a total non-control. We won't be able to control the these, for example, these seams, because like many people don't maybe realize that actually what we are seeing here is not actually what we will get. So for example, you can go like texture service in here, you can see that we have these really nice looking seams, but these are only fake. These are actually shader effect in Marvelous Designer. These are not, we will never, if we just export this, we will not get these. So what we need to do in ZBrush, we need to be able to reproduce this effect of these seams. So that's something that was like first time when I tried, I was really shocked because it looked really great in Marvelous Designer. Then when I just exported it to ZBrush, it just lost everything. It just didn't look right. Another thing you can see that obviously what we are seeing here is flipped. So we have like this shape which goes like that, and it's going to wrap around. And this is just thin polygons, and we are looking at the wrong side of, we are looking at the opposite side of the polygons, and this is something that we obviously need to fix. We can go in here and do like, oh, I really hate this tooltip. It just, come on, please just people, can we just please do something about this, because this drives me nuts. We have to go and click and then go like that. So we're going to. So what I did here is I just selected the preview of textured, like the thickness preview basically. So I think I have never been, when I've been doing game models, I've never been able to use the we can export the thickness, but it will give us so much trouble, and it's going to be really painful to deal with. So I always just like, I sometimes keep the thickness as a preview turned on, but when I export, I always export as thin, because then we have much less trouble when we start to like weld things and so on. All right. Okay, so I hope this makes some sense so far. So okay, so we have the UV window in here. So normally when we start, the UVs are like just totally messed up, like something like that, and it's just like when we are building, when we are just moving things in here and constructing and simulating and adding new pieces, it just like gets like so. So the way how we can fix the UVs really quickly is just go in here and right click, and we can do like reset UV to 2D arrangement. And now what it does is that it copies this layout to the UV window. I can then right click and go to fit all UV to 0 to 1. So it moves them, and we even have some nice fine tuning in here. Alright, great. So we have now the UVs, and we can just maybe just move these a little bit so we don't accidentally go to the other tiles. So we have some, it's nice to have a little bit space. There's actually like these buttons and everything, so we can actually do buttons also in here. So if we're just gonna do like button, I can actually do buttons basically in here, and they are really nice and really quick way to preview like what you have is a really big button. But like anyway, you can do that, and you can even go like fasten button. You can do like so you can actually fasten them, and then when you simulate, it's gonna like do like that, and just like have to do try to get the button behave like correctly. Like you can probably, if I just pull the button in the right way, okay, so something like that. It's really, I made a really bad job, but like you can get those like hardware stuff in here, but these are not nice, and you have to redo them anyway, because the topology is like mess. Like it's nice, it works here, but it's not game ready. So what I'm just like deleting them, or I just don't export them. Alright, so finally let's start to, before I export, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the topology. So we have like what I've done is that I've selected all of them, and I'm simmed, and then I'm going to the edit context menu, and I have actually we can go like I have done this quadrangulate. So what this does, it gives us this type of like mesh basically. So it's not like, again, this is not really game ready, animation ready stuff. So it works, it looks like we can render with this, but it's not optimal obviously, so we need to fix that. But anyway, I found that this quadrangulate works better. So if we don't do that, we can always, like by default, that is actually triangulate. So it's more like this type of geometry that we get by default. So I've found out that that is a little bit nicer. You can also do remesh. Remesh gives us like a little bit different topology. It gives us this type of mesh, and this is like all nice quads, but then it gives us these because it's matching those edges. So I found, at least in this particular piece, I found the best to be go here, do the quadrangulate. So this will then, but before we need to uncheck this, otherwise it won't work. So I'm just gonna go back here and do the quadrangulate. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Quadrangulate, quads. So it's mostly quads, but it's like messed up quads anyway. Okay, so I've done that, and also like before you export, it's good to make sure that you have enough resolution. So you can go to simulation properties and you can just particle distance. I'm doing 8. You can go like 5 or even less than that, but like it gets slow by a lot. So okay, select all. So I'm gonna go here, select all the patterns, go to File, Export, and then I'm doing FBX. I found the FBX to be better than OBJ in some cases. It seems to give us more options. So let's see. So it's just gonna do the synchronization here. So we don't need avatar. We can select the avatar if we want, but we can always get it back later if we want. So I'm just gonna leave it off and do single object and do unweld. So what this means is that unweld will keep the points separate, so it doesn't weld anything. Weld will probably weld something, but I always tend to be doing unweld because this is something that I found that it's better to be taking care later in ZBrush. This gives us more freedom. Okay, and then do thin, not thick. Like if you just like want to render this, just render this without touching it. Maybe thick, but like I prefer thin because again we need to get back in here and do a lot of stuff to this. Alright, and then the unified UV corners. This is important. We need the UVs in order to be able to do something to this later. And I'm just gonna hit OK. So we can just leave everything else by default. Alright, so let's go to ZBrush. Let's see what we got. So I'm gonna go import and let's see what we get. So what you get is something like this. So this has like some texture map applied. So I'm gonna actually it's taking this map and it's correctly, we go like skin shake, we can see that it's doing the colors and it's nice. I mean it's nice to see, but I'm just gonna turn it off because we won't be looking at that right now. So okay, you can see that the color looks weird, and the reason why the color looks weird now is that, remember what we have here is thin polygons, and the polygon normals are facing the wrong way. So like obviously what you could do is you could flip these, but then you get geometrical problem. So actually I didn't find any YouTube videos that talk about this topic, and this is like really fundamental and important, so I'm gonna talk about it. If you're bored, just like, okay, you can just go get a sandwich or coffee or something like that. I'm a little bit hungry right now. You just talk about sandwiches. Alright, so let's do some polygon, let's do some basic geometry 101. Okay, so we can do like, for example, this. So we have now geometry in here. Alright, so let's say that we are doing a color, for example. This doesn't look like a color, but maybe you can just like grab some vertices in here and maybe just try to make it look like a color a little bit, something like that. Let's say that this is very flat color. So the color, what it does is it curves around, obviously. So it does like that. Now it starts to look a little bit like very strange shaped color. So let's say that this is more like the shape that we are looking for. Maybe I'm just gonna if you just bear with me a little bit. So I'm gonna do like a little bit like that, so we get like alright, it's not really a color, but anyway, what we have here, we have a shape that goes over. So okay, so we can see that obviously now it's doing this, and then if we look at it from this angle, we can see that this is like these normals are facing upwards, and then it's just normals are going this way, and this is flipped. So what we have temptation to do, obviously, we could just go in here. Okay, so just flip them. I mean, that makes sense, right? So I'm just gonna go and reverse them. And now what you have is this, and this is not going to work. We won't be able to use this. This is like illegal. You're not supposed to do this. This will give us an issue. It's a little bit similar issue that, for example, some beginner modelers do this mistake, and this is no. This is we can't. Maya will break. This will break the universe. This hurts nature. If I'm gonna go to UV in here, if I'm just gonna do like, let's see, do unfold. Look at it break. You can see that now all these faces are broken. This model is beyond fixing. We will not be able to fix this. And you can also see that Maya has separated the flipped polygons. You can see this is mess now, and we can't fix this. So what I'm saying here is that we need to be able to separate this. So first, let's go in display properties and do double-sided. So now we're going to be able to see the both sides. So again, these are flipped polygons. These are, well, they're not flipped, they are just like curving outwards. But I'm just going to keep this turned on so we will be able to work with them. So okay, so we have the model in here. I'm going to check the wireframe. Looks like this now. First thing that I always like to do is I like to go to polygroups, and I'm going to do auto groups with UV. What this does is it takes the UV map that we have. If we go to UV map even more, we can see that we have these nice UVs that we got from Marvelous Designer. Now we have polygroups. Okay, so what this means is that during the process, if we lose our UVs, we are fine because we still have the polygroups. If we lose also polygroups, then we are kind of messed up. So don't mess up your polygroups. Whatever you do, don't just go there and whoops, don't do this. Like if you do Control W, you can actually like polygroup stuff. Alright, so now we have this. So if I go to geometry, for example, if I'm just gonna do like dynamic subdiv in here. Okay, so we can't subdivide these as it is because now our points are not welded, right? So I'm gonna go here, uncheck this. So we need to be able to weld our points, and looks like our points are pretty close to each other. So I think we are able to probably get away with by using just topology tools in ZBrush. Alright, so go to modify topology and weld points. Okay, let's see. Again, I'm going to dynamic subdiv, and now we get this error. This mesh contains one faces with multiple references to same vertex. So now something has happened to us, our model, so we can probably go to mesh integrity and just fix mesh. And it looks like it probably is fine now. Again, go to dynamic subdiv, disable that. We can just go and we can see that we didn't actually weld all of them. So I'm gonna maybe go modify topology and just gonna increase the weld distance. Okay. Again, it says same error, but it's fine. One edge is okay. Doesn't matter. I'm gonna fix mesh maybe. I don't know actually what that means. Okay, so sorry. Just go back to dynamic Subdiv, okay, where it is. Alright, like so. Sorry, dynamic subdiv. So yeah, okay, so it looks like we got rid of most of our holes. So if you have still like some hole that is like you have some issue here, you can really go like, for example, we can see that we have a bit of issue here now. We have this type of a situation here. So we have this really nice modeling tool, C modeler in here. So what we actually do is, I'm just gonna select like move the cursor to one point, go here, and then just do like stitch. What I can do now is that I can do like that, or actually it would be nicer if we split this. Insert point. Okay, right, so I'm just gonna insert point in here. Alright, so I'm gonna stitch this to this, and now we have this polygon in here. What I'm just gonna do is I'm gonna polygroup this. Control Shift click one of these polygroups, and then I'm gonna Control left click to mask this, and then I can go and mask this polygon, and I'm gonna hit Control W, and now we have this one polygroup again in here, and it's intact. So it's good to go around the model and check that you don't have any issues like that. Alright, I hope you haven't fallen asleep yet. This is like, it gets a bit tricky, but I'm sure we can get through this. We can get to the better shape. So again, like what we have in here now is that we have a really good template for our model. We have some of our faults in here, but what I've really like learned during the years when I've worked with Marvelous Designer and ZBrush is that like we can't just get the greases and those nice folds from Marvelous Designer and then just forget about it. We really need to kind of redo them and redo the final details in ZBrush, because we will just, stuff will get lost in the process. So we are used to handle this manually, and when we just really start to detail, like make fine details like those seams, we just need to do it. We just need to kind of handle that in ZBrush, and that's like this reality. I can show you a couple of tricks that we can use in order to handle those like seams. If, for example, like I have this nice crease in here in the actual topology, we have this. I'm just gonna show you how to do that. But before we do that, it's really nice way. Now we have basically a good starting point. I can go to geometry and do ZRemesher. So ZRemesher will annihilate, it will massacre our UVs. So but remember, again, we have the polygroup, so we don't need to care about that. So I'm just gonna go to select keep groups and then hit ZRemesher. So we got this, and this is actually like really pretty nice. Again, like I'm just gonna, if you allow me to rant a little bit, yeah, all right. So if you guys follow YouTube at all, there's really nice artist called Laura Gallagher, if I remember her, if I pronounce her name right. She did this really nice workflow for taking Marvelous fabrics out of Marvelous Designer to ZBrush, and this is like, you can find this from the YouTube. So Outgang, she's really awesome artist, and just super like ex-Eidos Montreal game character designer, and just super, I just have huge respect for her. Start here, and is your clean topology important to you? Yes. So go to Marvelous Designer, and pretty much the same settings that I use, except you used weld, which in my case caused trouble. But anyway, and then she talks about making the panels, which I'm gonna show you in a moment as well. So this worked really well. So what she describes here at this point is that she takes this to Maya, use the ZBrush to retopologize, and then use the ZBrush to flatten the mesh, and then okay, this gets like, I know it's really super difficult to understand if you are like new to this, but like what I'm talking here is this Maya's transfer attributes, and this is one specific way to fake this. I'm gonna maybe make another video about this, because it's like this is one way. So okay, I'm not gonna open that kind of worms, because like so what my point was here was that what I'm trying to tell here is that there's many ways to do this, but most of them have issues. And what this was, that this thing broke for me when I was doing the ZBrush. So what she does here is that she used this UV Master Unwrap with polygons. Sorry, actually, no, let me see. Here, yeah. What she does, yes. Okay, so I'm gonna show you this. What you can get by following this method, you can get a flat representation of the mesh. So if I'm, again, this is another tangent, like I'm just going there and there, just if you just bear with me, please. We have this UV master in here. We can actually use this in a moment to do the UVs as well, but what we have in here, by the way, this is a little bit buggy, we have to click something. So we can do this flatten. Okay, it says no UVs exist. Well, yeah, because we did retopo. So I'm just gonna do real quick unwrap. So I'm gonna do polygroups and unwrap. Awesome. So now we can do flatten. And now they're all over the place, obviously, because this is based on the UVs. But what we have now, we have the geometry as a flat plane. So we have the real geometry. These are not UVs, these are actually the real geometry. It just broke the model in the pieces. And what wonderful Laura was actually describing here was a method of taking this flat piece and taking it to Maya, and then just using this trick called attribute transfer. So what I have done here was this same mesh. So I'm taking this flat geometry, and then if you have the UVs, what you can do is that you can transfer the vertex positions, you can transfer the point position to another model. So you can take this and you can wrap this nice topology around existing model. This is one way to do topology. And what this means is that you need to manually go and merge those points. You also need to make sure that your topology points are accurate so that these match. If they don't match, you're kind of screwed up. So like you're out of luck if you're... So this is very... I haven't had, honestly, very good success with this. What we do get is nice mesh, but then also those kind of like creases, larger kind of like creases. This method, unless you are like wizard who understands like time and space like in 4 dimensions, unless you're a wizard like that, you're not going to be able to get the nice flow. What you will end up having is this type of topology anyway. This will happen even if you have a clean topology, if you wrap the 2D planes. So like I think I actually do have somewhere a model that actually did by this, so I'm gonna show you. It's nice, it's technically very cool trick, but I just don't... I've done this about 12 times and I just haven't had the greatest success with this. So like, I mean, this is like trying, learning. Alright, so look at this. So you do get this this is actually the topology that I created this way. Now you can see that it's pretty good. If it's this level, this works, and you can come here and then just like weld those. But then I had the issue here. I just didn't... My math skills are not greatest, so I ended up having this, and then I have to go and okay, so I have to do this. And again, what happened to me was that okay, I'm gonna go and do that. And I'm just going to target weld, I'm just gonna do like that. And what happened to me is that this will kill the UVs. And this method relies on the UVs. If you lose your UVs, you're screwed. You can't go back. This is destructive workflow. So unfortunately, even though this is a really cool way, and I'm sure there are great artists out there who just have this kind of like ability to understand space, dimensions, shapes, geometry in a more like universal way than me. I'm sure this is a great way, but it just never worked for me, unfortunately. So to go back, let's return to this universe. So what we have in here now already, we didn't need to worry about manually topologizing everything. We have already this, and I think this is pretty good starting point, really seriously. So I think we can definitely start to look at, for example, those seams. Okay, so let's actually just seriously do that. So we have many ways in ZBrush to deal with panels and seams and things like that. So we could go like, I think in this case, what I like to do is I like to use the ZRemesher, because ZRemesher, I think this is very powerful and really actually kind of fun tool. I really love this. This is so kind of sweet way how Xpixologic nowadays Maxon is developing. So we have the polygroup, so we can actually take this polygroup and we can do select like one poly in here, and I can do like inset, and then we can just say that not single poly, but we want to do polygroup all, and we can do like that. So for some reason it doesn't allow us to do like a small value, something like maybe it's the distance related to distance, so like that. So now we get inset and we get also polyloop around this, and this is also its own group. Now we can select this. Isn't that nice? Now we have ability to start to do things to this. We can, for example, go in here and I can extrude a poly and do like polygroup. We can do like polygroup all, like so. Now we get already this, and we are already going somewhere with this. We have now this. Isn't that nice? Also very nice way to do is that if we have like tons of them, if we have many of them, these type of things, for example, let's do the other thing. Let's do the same thing to here. I'm just gonna go to inset. Again, it will be nice that we match it exactly, but I'm just gonna eyeball it now. Inset polygroup all, and I'm just going to do it again, something like so. Go here. So now we have actually two nice polygroups. So I'm just going to go and select these, like so. Actually, they are their own group. They are the same, which is really nice. So what we can now do is we can do stuff to this particular polygroup. So I'm just going to go here, extrude polygroup all. You can see it did the both sides because they're the same group, so we didn't need to do it. We just did it once, and we already have this stuff going on. This is pretty nice. And what I can now do is I can subdivide, and you can see we are starting to really look something here. We already have nice seam in here. We could also do the same seam in here, for example. Like if I'm just gonna go back one subdivision level. So the one thing that we just have to keep in mind is that ZModeler doesn't work if we have subdivisions. So it's maybe in this case one way to use is to use the dynamic subdiv. So this actually gives us the same thing without having to subdivide. We could also go in here and do like bevel in here, like from bevel this, bevel edge loop complete. So now we get seam like that, for example. And we can also do like bevel but partial edge loop. Or it, I don't know, somehow it doesn't. Interesting that actually did the other way. I think there's a way to terminate it. We can also mask, so we can go in here and do like some mask. For example, if we go do like that, select this, mask that, and now we do that, it will terminate at the mask. It's a nice way that we can control that if you just want to see me in here, for example. So like that, yes. So polygroups are wonderful. These will really help us to get somewhere with our model. So yeah, I think it's not so bad, and we haven't really had to manually do anything. Of course, like these pieces here won't work, and the way how this geometry goes is the marvelous, like especially those block patterns that are ready-made. They are very, very, very like professional, but they are not friendly for making game. So the way how the topology works is it goes like that, and it goes inside, and then again it wraps outside. So it goes here, it goes inside, it's folded like twice. And obviously, if we are doing baking or things like that, this wouldn't work for baking, because those sides, like, I don't know, maybe someone can make it work, but I would just simplify it. So the way that we could do it, for example, would be like split it up. We could go like split it up like really easily with the Z modeler. Like we could go like delete, and we could go like polyloop like that. So we deleted that, and now they are separate, and so on. So we could go separate them and polygroup them and so on, something like that. But yes, we already are going somewhere. Of course, these are now, we lost some shape with that. The shape became round because we subdivided that, so that requires some planning and work. I'm just not gonna do that right now, but like so. What comes to the color then next? So let's look at the color. The color, obviously we need thickness for this. We also need thickness for these pieces. So how can we deal with that? So what I've learned is that with these things, because we also need to bake it, and then the baking will become difficult if we have shapes close to each other like that. So what I'm just going to do is select this, I'm going to mask that, select this. The way I'm doing this, I'm Control Shift clicking and then Control click masking those, making them selected, and then maybe this will work for us. And then I'm going to maybe go and split them up to separate. I'm going to split to split mask point. Okay, now we have this. So what we can do to this now is that we can start to maybe further do some further stuff to this. For example, we could select those. Maybe these could be their own pieces as well. So I've really thought that, like, if we could probably just extrude them and see what happens if we do that. So I'm gonna go on extrude polygroup all, extrude polygroup all, like so. Maybe this will, yeah, this could actually work even as it is. It's still like the polygons are actually stitched, so the polygons are like stitched in these points, and then at the end we will actually probably weld these. So it's gonna be like not the greatest situation to be in, but I think this will work. At least this isn't like super non-manifold stuff. And then I'm gonna go to the color. I'm gonna do the same, because we will probably, yeah, we will definitely need the thickness. So now we have this, and now we have the thickness for those parts. Okay, great. So now what we can really do with this is that we can really start to sculpt and add details, because that's the thing that we always need to do anyway if we are doing high detail photorealistic type of garments. I'm just gonna go and divide this. Again, that is just a little bit annoying, but let's just ignore that for now. So what we can do now is just start to work with like the usual stuff like the wrinkles. Also we can notice that the seam actually became a little bit soft. So there's a way we can tighten up this seam. Actually it seems like we lost some of that extrusion we did. So what we can do, maybe I can delete the higher and go like seam modeler, and I'm gonna extrude polygroup all. So now we get it back where it was, and then like so. So now we have this. So what we can do is just the usual type of like sculpting. We can see that we have made these shapes very soft. So what we could do is we could go and start to bring back those folds that we so nicely did with Marvelous Designer, and then also like just start like overall give it some shape and start to, it's good to probably do like the large shapes first and do like large folds first, and then go like to the tertiary details, to the smaller details like so we could get like some tightness here, and we could also do like that. So like just try out different kind of shape that maybe didn't really work. So also we probably need to have like some type of seam running here. We can do that, it's no problem. So again, working with a model like that, making sure that there's some like stretching effects happening in the appropriate areas, looking at reference, it's really good. Then just go like a little bit like more detail, like smaller detail, and then at some point we can actually divide it again, go to the next subdivision level. So again, a lot of this is just like doing this type of work, but you can see that already we are at pretty good situation here. We have a high poly model with UVs, with polygroups. If we take this now, we already could export this mesh as low poly, and we could already grab these, provided that we separate maybe the sleeves and separate the color as they are a separate object. We could bake this. I don't think we would face any large issues. We have a garment that works. So yes, it's a long video. I think, and this is like just like one way, of course. Like all my respect to Flip Normals, to Outgang Studio, which is just like absolute the best. I think Outgang is the best resource for learning character art in the whole internet. I think she's just brilliant. She's a really great teacher. She has just this great artistic attitude for grabbing the detail. Like she did this letter video, like a video only about letter, talking about like 30 minutes. Yeah, Outgang. Check that from the YouTube. I'm gonna link that to the description so people can check it out, because she's way better teacher than I am, especially when it comes to character art. But yes, basically, when you're done with this and when you have separated those sleeves and you have, then what you just can do is that go to C plugin. We have the C plugin in here. We have FBX export import. We can use this, and we can, with this plugin, we can export all visible subtools. All these subtools we have in here, if we have any, more than one. We can do it at once. We don't need to. So we can get nice FBX out of that. So we can do the low poly that way, and then we can do the high poly as well. So just go to the higher res, go this, and then do another export with the high poly. So that way you can get high poly and low poly out of here. And yeah, that's I think about it. I mean, this method works for me. Again, like it's really great if you are working with very complex meshes. This is still very simple. So like if you have like multi-layered fabrics with very complicated details that you need to have in geometry. It could be that the manual Maya attribute transfer type of topology method is still way better than this, but I've noticed that this gives us much more like faster results, and also this seems to break less. Let's just call it that, because yeah, this stuff can get a little bit tedious. Okay, it was a long one. I hope you guys didn't like get too upset with me going all over the place with like going to Maya and going to ZBrush and so on. But yeah, this maybe gives some ideas to character artists who want to take their nicely done marvelous designer meshes and take them to ZBrush and so on. This was Jaakko. I'll see you in the next video, and take care and good night.